from RC Tanks and Trucks 24/7, here with another new RC, and it's another DHK hobby. Now I guess it isn't really brand new because the DHK hobby Maximus has been around for a few years actually, but from my understanding it wasn't an 80 amp configuration. Please correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, but this new guy has a hobby wing 120 amp ESC. Now I have high hopes for this guy because I do really like my DHK Zombie 8E, which is this guy here. It has been my #1 basher to date. It's an all-round awesome car, especially for the price. It's 100 amp hobby wing ESC, but a lot of the running gear and the suspension and the whole setup of the car is very similar of that to the Maximus here, that's why I've got real high hopes for this guy. Now when you look at this guy, it looks pretty wicked. I must admit, I do like it. I like how it's looks very long here, kind of looks mean. It is wider and longer than the DHK Zombie, but the height is roughly the same at 181 millimeters. Same wheels, different tires, different ESC, same motor, different chassis layer, so it's pretty interesting. Anyway, enough talking. In this video, obviously I'll unbox it, in-depth overview, and I'm going to give you a good comparison between this guy and the Zombie 8E, so hope you enjoy it. So here is the box, the DHK Hobby Maximus. It's a 1/8 scale brushless 4x4 ready to run monster truck, and it stipulates here that it can run up to 80 kilometers an hour or 50 miles an hour, so I'll definitely put that in a test in a later video. A quick look around the box before we open her up, and this kit has been around for a few years. I think about 4 or so years. I think the older version had an 80 amp ESC, where this particular one, I don't know if it's been updated or with any other changes, has 120 amp ESC. Now here on the side of the box, it's got some specs here, pretty hard to see, but length 497 mil, width 389 mil, height 181 mil, weighs roughly 3.3 kilos. Like I mentioned, does have a 120 amp ESC. The motor is a 2030 kV, does include two 7.4 volt LiPo batteries, does have a 9 kilo metal gear steering servo, and obviously a 2.4 gigahertz radio. There's a front pick of the car, does look very nice, and the height is very similar to the DHK Zombie 8E. I think pretty much identical, but this one is a bit wider and also a little bit longer. On the other side of the box has the rear end there. Go bash indeed. Now on this side of the box, some more juicy stuff. Does have aluminium shock tower with threaded aluminium oil filled shocks, which is very nice. Superior upper bracing. Also got large 17mm hex drives there, which is awesome. And the truck itself has a weird looking design. At least it does come with a fan on that motor to keep temps manageable. And the last side we'll look at does come in different varieties, but this one here does have two 7.4 volt 3200 milliamp hour hard case LiPos, as well as this standard 2.4 pistol grip transmitter. But the famous saying, that's enough of that. Let's get inside the box. Okay, first up here we have our 2.4 gigahertz controller. There we go. Now I don't mind these. They might not look the best, but they certainly do feel comfortable in the hand. Let's see. And you need to put in 4 AA batteries, which is good. And it has your normal array of buttons and switches, on and off, steering and throttle reverse switches, your throttle trim, your steering dual rate, and also your throttle dual rate. So if you've got someone who's a bit newbie, you can always turn that throttle dual rate down to limit the speed, but we'll crank that right up. Apart from that, it does feel nice. This is a nice rubber coating on top here and a nice little stubby antenna, so you won't break that off in a hurry. Next up here is our plug and play style balance charger. It is a V3, does 2S and 3S. It'll get you out of trouble. I'd always recommend a hobby grade charger. As you can see there, you have a 2S and a 3S balance lead, and that's how it charges. So you probably, I don't know, 3 to 4 hours or so to charge up your battery, but at least it'll get you out of trouble, and you can get you started. There's your 17mm wrench, 4 aluminium nuts, antenna tube, 1 instruction manual regarding the transmitter, and another one for the actual truck itself. Model number there is 8382. Now your standard array of jargon in here. how to properly store a LiPo, or your full parts list. And one thing I always like to see in instruction manuals is full exploded diagrams. If you go try to bind, or if you don't know how to put it back together, you can always reference this back and you should get you out of trouble. Yep. Oh, and a full parts list as well. Excellent stuff. Now the instruction manual for the 120 amp ESC. And I'm pretty sure this is a hobby wing as well. This WPSC8 number I have seen before, so at least you can program it as well, although you need a separate programming card to do that. She's upside down. Sweet. Just like the Zombie 8E, the wheels you need to install, which is no biggie. Okay, so we got 4 wheels and tyres obviously, and they do feel quite nice. They are different compound or different style compared to the actual Zombie 8E, although this wheel is the same. I'll get the Zombie out later to compare it all once we all put it together and had a closer look at this, but so far so good. Obviously our foam filled, they do have a air hole in there, but they do feel quite nice, a little bit stiff, but the Zombie tyres were very good, so I have high hopes for these ones as well. Alrighty, here it is. Like with all my unboxings, let's have a look at the body first. It does have this nice protective wrap on there, but we'll get rid of that ASAP. And there we go. Not as cool looking as the Zombie 8E, but it still does look very nice. DHK Hobby Maximus. There we go there. Pretty striking colours. I like how it doesn't have the painted over windows, like you can actually see through there, which is nice. But very nice and flexible. It doesn't seem like that brittle stuff like the, what's the other model, the JLB 21101 Cheetah. That seems to be a little bit more brittle. This has a little bit more flex and give, so hopefully it doesn't crack under brutal conditions and brutal driving that I'll be putting it through. Now the layout of this is extremely different than the Zombie 8E. Very similar size. This one is a little bit longer by a few mil and wider as well. The same height though at 181 millimeters from memory, but the internals are very different. So what I'll do, I'll get the camera down lower and we'll go through all the components and a nice closer look at it all. Now let's start off with the brain of the operation. Here we have, I'm pretty sure it's a rebranded, or it is a Hobby Wing 120 amp ESC, this SC8 RTR, rated from 2S to 4S LiPos, and the connection that we have here is in series, so we have two 2S batteries, which will give us a total of 4S of power. Now I have this ESC and a couple other of my trucks. It runs flawlessly, heaps of power, very reliable. It is waterproof as well, and with a separate programming card you can program different variables in this ESC. So I think this kit originally came out with the 80 amp ESC many years ago, and this has been upgraded, thankfully, because I heard they weren't the best. So at least they've gone with a reputable and reliable 120 amp ESC for this one. And next up here we have a 9 kilo all metal geared steering servo, which is nice. I think it's very similar to the one that is in the Zombie. No issues with that one there. And it also does include a servo saver in there as well. And also here the connecting arm that obviously connects the left to the right side for the steering is all aluminium as well, and it is very nicely anodized with a lot of the other parts in this nice orange color. Okay, let's turn our attention to the other side of the car. Forgot to mention we also have a nice rubber boot on this setup here as well, so that is nicely waterproof. Here we have, there's no actual, I couldn't see the specs on it, but I think it's a 36 by 70 millimeter long can. It is a 2030 kV brushless motor there. Does have a metal pinion meshing up to a plastic center spurgear, and that is a differential. It has 3 differentials, and they are all machined metal gears, so that should be pretty strong enough, and I don't see any issues with that. Now with the Zombie, and this as well has it, it does have nice cable management. Everything here is nicely cable tied, so I don't think anything will get in the way. Also have a nice big chunky fan here, and you can see the wire is routed in these little clips here, which kind of keep everything from flapping about and getting caught up in the gears. I've had several other cars that have had some loose wires and the gears, or they get munched by the pinion and spur gear. So that's kind of nice to see. The cables themselves feel pretty nice quality. Nice 12 gauge wire there, and they feel like it does have a high silicone content in the coating as well. Underneath this little kind of waterproof or splash proof box, you have your receiver there, and that is a 3-channel receiver, and you also need to feed in that plastic antenna as well, just like that. Now it's got a weird looking battery tray, and this holder is kind of strange, held on by 2 body clips at this end and kind of just wedged underneath here so it doesn't lift up. But as we can see, it does include 2 7.4 volt 3200 milliamp hour 20C rated LiPo batteries. They are hard case, not the biggest capacity, you know, 20C. They might get a little bit hot with running this, considering it's about 3.5 kilos. I'm not too sure how these will stand up, but we'll certainly put them through the test, just standard running and speed test videos to see how they go. And if they don't last too long, that's fine. I'll get some decent like SMC batteries in here later on. But from factory, at least it does include LiPos when you buy the kit, so you aren't left high and dry. You can just charge them up, plug it in, and you are ready to go. Now the issue I see here is these battery trays don't look like they can be adjusted. You flip it under the car. It doesn't say there are any other mounting holes for these to kind of slide in and out, but in saying that, the standard batteries are a standard size LiPo hard case. You have plenty of options with different size milliamp hours too. Now that the battery is out, we can see the center drive shaft. So obviously got one from the rear differential to the front, and it does have a nice beefy steel drive shaft there. They are dog bones as well, and that also follows through to the front, as you can just see in there. Now on all corners you have 5mm thick steel drive shafts. They are dog bones, and you also have a combination of plastic and metal, as you can see there, similar to the actual Zombie as well. It is plenty beefy enough, and Zombie I have not any issues to date, and I have bashed the living hell out of that thing. So this here is a very similar setup. Obviously you have some toe in and toe out adjustments there, also camber adjustment, and you also notice that it does have front and rear sway bars in there, which is very nice. They are adjustable as well, so there are plenty of suspension tuning options for this bad boy. Now while we're talking tuning, there are 2 bottom lower mounts here for the suspension, and also 6 up the top here on this pretty thick aluminium shock mount, or shock tower, sorry. While we're up the front, I might as well just look at these bumpers. This part is pretty stiff, and I don't like your chances. They're not as flexible as some of the other cars like the Team Magic, but it does have this kind of cushioning system here that has a bit of give in there, so hopefully during a crash it won't just snap and break off. That also follows through to the back, but yeah, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes in real life testing. And also it has these body mounts that are adjustable in height as well, as you can see. Fair degree of adjustment there. So want to bring the body up, easily just pull those pins out and adjust them front and rear. I kind of like that. Now, as you can see, it does have nice orange anodized or aluminium parts everywhere. Very cool color, and it does have these strengthening plates up the top, kind of a mixture of plastic and aluminium. And all the screws here are hex head screws. Nice, only Phillips head I see. Here's the obligatory one on the servo there, but everything else seems all hex head, which is very nice to see. And it does seem very solid, and it's kind of like a tub shape as well. Kind of runs up, stops, or kind of limits any ingress coming into the chassis, and also does have, I guess, a strengthening property. But when the actual body sits on, it kind of just sits on this lip here, so it'll stop or a lot of the dust and debris getting up in here. Now here's the chassis. Everything is obviously countersunk, no major hang-ups here, no Phillips heads to be seen, or Allen heads here as well. And you'll also have your, obviously you can change the mesh quite easily under the bottom here with these 4 screws. Now here we have our 15mm diameter big bore shocks. They are anodized aluminium bodies, and they are threaded, so very easily quick adjustments. And from factory, like the Zombie, they felt pretty good. A little bit under dampened in the Zombie, but that's an easy fix, and you know, each to their own. You could have different setups how you'd like it, but not too bad from the factory. What I'll do now is I'll put the tyres on. That'll give us a better indication of how it feels. Use the included wrench here. It's made out of plastic, but you know how often how hard you go on these things. I don't think it's going to break anytime soon. And when I got the Zombie, I noticed that my tyres were all the same direction. Like there weren't two lefts and two rights. I had all like lefts, for example, 4 lefts, so whatever. Didn't really affect the handling or how I drove. The tyres still hooked up really, really nice, but these seem like they're kind of multi-directional. Okay, now all the tyres are on. Doesn't feel too bad, a little bit springy. As you can see, comes up a little bit too quick. So definitely wouldn't mind changing the oil out on those shocks, but like I do with all my running videos, everything like that, I keep everything bone stock. Unless there's something seriously wrong, I'll change it, but I like to keep everything bone stock to give you guys a good indication of how it is as soon as you unwrap it out of the box and plug those batteries in for the first time. So we'll see how this runs. Okay, so here I have the awesome Zombie 8E, and here I have, well, the Maximus 1/8 scale as well. Very similar when you first look at them. I just see a little bit of difference here with the location of the motor. Obviously on the Zombie, it's mid-mounted there. On the Maximus, it's front-mounted facing the center differential. I guess it doesn't really matter, it's just how they kind of situated the parts, but it's just interesting to see the different layout on similar trucks. Okay, now let's have a close look. I've taken the camera off the mount so I can get in a bit closer for you guys. As you can see, the suspension set up like the actual shocks and the shock tower here looks identical on both. So there's no different there. Same going with the bumpers as well. One thing I also can see is the drivetrain and steering and all the wishbone components are identical on both trucks as well. Not too sure if you can see. If I can get both in there, you can see that they are extremely similar. One thing I noticed though, it does have like hub extenders here. Well, not actually extenders, but they're one whole piece, but they are much wider on the Maximus than they are, for example, on the Zombie. You can see you can't hardly even see it. If I go back to the Maximus, you can see it's much wider here. Tyres themselves are very similar in diameter. They share the same wheel, just the tyres are slightly different. We can see the setup here on the Maximus is much different. It takes dual batteries, where the Zombie obviously takes one. That is because on the Maximus, the motor and the ESC and the steering servo are all located in this one section. That's why they're made like that, to make room for another battery there. As you can see, this is sitting high and mighty up on this center support there, so everything, all the electronics are up here, and your batteries can fit nicely in the back there. I guess that's pretty good for weight distribution as well, but we'll definitely see how it flies through the air at the skate park. It also seems to have the same body posts there, adjustable body posts as well. And yeah, the sway bars, A-arms and the control arms and all that kind of stuff seem exactly the same. Now the servos in both are the 9 kilo all metal gears, so that's the same. What is different though, the Zombie uses a WP 8BL 100 amp ESC from Hobbywing. I can just see there. Whereas the Maximus uses a 120 amp version. Motors are identical as well. This one obviously has a fan because I think it's going to be a little bit heavier, pumping out a few more amps of that 120 amp ESC, and it is the same on the Zombie. And as you can see, it does even have the bracket that the Maximus has, but just no fan there. And our final look at the cars, you can see the shape of the bottom chassis plate is extremely similar, although obviously the mounting holes for the motors are in a different position, but they do look very similar in length, and overall shape is the same, especially this, or even this kind of rubber or plastic molding that goes around the side. It's a little bit different on here, but it does also have it on the Zombie as well. Now both trucks definitely have the same suspension. As you can see, it's a little bit bouncy on the Zombie as well, but I gave it a good test and it didn't fare too bad. Obviously with different dampening, that'll sort that right up, but that has nothing that's no major issues. That's either hearsay or there. It's up to you how you like it. Everything is stock on that as well. I haven't really changed anything. So hopefully, I have high hopes for this one as well. This has been really strong, and that has been one of my favourite cars, even compared to the JLB Cheetah or the Vicar Bison. It's not as fast as them, but in overall package, this is probably my go-to car in this series. Obviously the X-Max is my favourite, but that's in a different price range, but I still love this DHK Hobby. So this guy right here might steal the limelight. And no, the body does not fit the standard. Well, it does fit at the back here in the two body posts, but at the front they don't, and vice versa. It's got this wing on the back, but I guess you could retrofit those holes, but I always get asked that question, does the body fit on that one or vice versa? But yeah, this body does look pretty mean, that's for sure. They both, even though they are different, kind of slightly bigger, they both are 181 millimeters in height. Now with the body on, it does look really mean. I do kind of like the low slung look, same as the Zombie does. As you can see, they are identical in height, but this black and orange scheme really is growing on me. I really do like it. Kind of looks a bit more scale and a bit more realistic than the Zombie, but this certainly does have a soft spot, just because I guess of the graphics and the colors. But once the body is on this, it does look really cool. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed the unboxing and in-depth look at the DHK Hobby Maximus. It is from Banggood. They sent me this for review, so muchly appreciated. Like always, I leave the link in the description if you want to go check it out and see more of the specs and all that kind of good stuff. Also leave the link in the description if you want to see the Zombie AD. I've run this before. It's a fantastic truck. Can't complain anything really about it. Only thing I can say is the suspension, a little bit of tuning here and there, but apart from that, all around basher car, that is fantastic, and especially good value. Now this guy, on the other hand, it has been out for a few years already. My understanding, it came out with an 80 amp ESC, which wasn't the best. So this model has been updated again. I think the running gear, everything looks the same, but electronics has been updated with that 120 amp Hobby Wing ESC, which is waterproof and very robust, because a lot of the stuff on the Maximus, like the important suspension parts, the wishbones and all that kind of good stuff, is the same, and the Zombie is very rugged and very tough, haven't broken anything to date. So I got high hopes for this bad boy. Do a speed test video and bashing videos like always, so stay tuned for those. Hope you liked the video, guys. If you haven't, please subscribe, share this video if you want. But that's me, Steve here again from RC Tanks and Trucks 24/7. Once again, appreciate all you guys watching, and I'll see you in the next videos. Thanks, guys.